Mr Speaker.
Porter Williams.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I just want to correct the previous speaker on a couple of points. The first point, that the government in all those many, many years when people were struggling to find affordable housing in the city that is hugely damaged by earthquakes, when 11 to 13,000 homes were damaged by the earthquakes, the government did not step in. There were calls for the government to regulate rents, which skyrocketed. There were rents in parts of New Brighton, Mr Speaker, where $1,200 a week was not unusual. And that previous member, that member who spoke previously has the audacity to say that the government stepped in. Well, they did not. I can assure you they did not. And the other thing I want to say is that the Riccarton market is not ramshackle. It's actually a well-supported, well-loved institution. And the people who attend that market will be hugely offended to know that the member on that side of the House thinks that it's ramshackle. When this bill first was proposed, there were many people, many markets, many community organisations who said, we would love the Riccarton market to come to our sites. That's how much it's loved in Christchurch. So it is not ramshackle. Mr Speaker, I want to also correct one of the statements about how involved the government is in promoting this bill. When the Riccarton Racing Club were promoting the idea of having 40 hectares of developed into housing, the Christchurch City Council, some of the Christchurch City councillors were questioning the rationale about why that should happen. Their fears and concerns were allayed to the point that they actually became the promoter, the formal promoter of the bill. Now, that for the members on that side of the House to say that the government has been the key driver and the key institution, particularly in supporting the development of housing in this area, is blatantly not correct. It is not correct. And I do want to say, Mr Speaker, that I do commend the Riccarton Racing Club for their foresight and their forward thinking in wanting to do this. Now, some of the reasons that they have gone down this path have been traversed, but one of them hasn't been expressed in this House tonight, and that is because the Riccarton Race Club really wants to preserve their racing club, the facilities, the track, the buildings that make up Riccarton Racing Club for perpetuity for the people of Christchurch. And in order to do that, this development will help them to achieve certain things. And one of the most important things is actually the maintenance, the ongoing maintenance of some of those buildings at the club which are old, and they need maintenance and ongoing maintenance, and because of their age, they need specialist care. So that's one of the reasons that this is happening. The other reason is they saw an opportunity to support the people of Christchurch and Canterbury actually be able to have some housing, because for such a long time, the redevelopment and the rebuild of our homes has taken a significant period of time, and adding 600 homes to the mix actually really does alleviate a lot of that pressure, Mr Speaker. So we're really looking forward to the development going ahead. I do want to commend and acknowledge the hard work of Dr Megan Woods, the local MP, who, when the local residents were concerned about what would happen to their much-loved park area, she made sure that there was lots of good information. She had public meetings. She got members of the racing club to attend these meetings and really talk through some of the big issues that they were concerned about. And I think that a lot of the work that she did up front really has allowed for a really succinct and really well-crafted process, because of a lot of the work that she did to ensure that the voice of her community was heard. Now, some of the things that the community raised, some of the issues they raised were, of course, around the significant increase in traffic that would happen. The area, the road, the Oldhurst Road, is a significant thoroughfare, and it leads from the southern part of the city right through to the airport and beyond. And it also leads on to the main highway that heads out west and onto the west coast. So it's quite a significant arterial route, and it will be impacted by 600 new homes in the area, all those people at rush hour wanting to get out to work and school and then coming home at the end of the day. And this development was originally going to be an exemplar. Now, an exemplar project has to have certain criteria within it. Affordability, a percentage of affordability, which this development assures us it will have. It has to have particular amenities, good urban design, infrastructure and transport planning. Well, in that regard, I think that perhaps there may be some problems with that. But this development is not an exemplar. It is one that in Part 2, Clause 9, talks about the requirements, which include relevant regional and district planning, the interests of Ngāi Tahu are fully considered, and this is an interesting provision, that fibre optic broadband connections are provided to all premises. I thought that was really interesting. What it doesn't include, which I think is really short-sighted, Mr. Speaker, is the ability to have good design that means that the homes are accessible whether you are 3 years old or 100, or whether you have a disability or not. They missed an opportunity to actually build into the requirements accessibility options, which I think is really short-sighted, Mr. Speaker. So we're looking at 600 homes, a third of which will be priced at $450,000 or below. And it's in the legislation that affordability is $450,000. And I've said in previous readings of this bill that I think Aucklanders would love to have a bill that determined what affordability was. However, I suspect that in the Auckland market, we would be coming back to the House week after week after week to actually change the level of affordability, because there is one thing that's for sure, affordability and Auckland housing market do not go together. They are not synonymous at all. But in this piece of legislation, we have got a definition for affordability at $450,000. Some of my colleagues have questioned whether that is actually affordable when the average price, Mr. Speaker, of a home in Canterbury sits around $490,000. And I too would question that definition of affordability. It may be that we at some point have to come back and redefine what affordable is in terms of the Christchurch housing market. Mr. Speaker, to end my contribution, I just want to say that housing is a major concern across our country, and I want to just acknowledge what is going to happen tonight at Park Up for Mangere, where 1,200 people have indicated that they are going to sleep in cars in solidarity for all the New Zealanders who are forced to sleep in cars. 1,200 people are going to volunteer to sleep in cars tonight, including Labour MPs. And I just want to acknowledge that they are making a stand for those people who cannot afford housing in this country.
Dr. Pym.